Ancient Sparta is famous above all for its reputation as a military power. Its most famous king, Leonidas, led the fateful Battle of Thermopylae, but one thing that many people don't talk about is the fact that he wasn't the only king of Sparta. It had two kings from two different royal families who both held equal power. The question is, why? How did Sparta come to have two kings and what did they do? Well, the origins of the Spartan diarchy is debated and frankly not something with a definitive answer. The Spartans believed that both their royal dynasties, the Achaemenid and Eurypontid, came from when King Aristodemos had twins. Nobody knew which one was older, and so the Spartans decided that both should be king. What many historians believe is the most likely reason for Sparta having two kings is that when the city-state of Sparta was first founded, it was made up of the merger of smaller settlements. The rulers of the two largest settlements came to an agreement to have a dual monarchy which managed to persist just like in ancient Crete. Of course, asking why Sparta had two kings isn't limited to asking where they came from, it also includes asking why they kept this system for centuries. And in order to know why Sparta had two kings, you need to know how its political system worked. Sparta had what's called a mixed constitution. It had an elected chamber called the Apella, from which the Gerousia, or a council of 30 elders, was selected, which also included the two kings whose positions were hereditary. Yet despite their being kings, the most powerful people in Sparta were the ephors, who were 5 people elected from the entire population for a 1-year term. And amongst the ephors there was often little disagreement, mostly because they all used their position to get rich and destroy people who didn't like them. So what did Spartan kings actually do then? That depends on which kings you're looking at and when, since over time Spartan kings lost certain rights and privileges. And by the time of the Persian Wars they did two things above all else: they were religious leaders and they led the army. Whilst on campaign though, Spartan kings had near absolute authority, which is why Aristotle described them as being hereditary generals. At home though, Spartan kings could do little except for overseeing religious matters and voting in the Gerousia. So why would Sparta keep two kings then? Why not just have one or even scrap the kings altogether? Well, the reason the kings stayed was largely because of how politically weak they were. You see, the ephors were the only ones with real power, and if there was only one king, then that means that the opposition to them could coalesce around one man. With two, they only needed to keep one on side. And since the two dynasties were often rivals for glory and power, that wasn't too hard. It also prevented one of them from running the army and thus becoming too powerful. This is why the ephors made a promise to uphold the diarchy and would prevent one dynasty from removing the other. Had the Spartan kings had more power, then frankly the system would have collapsed earlier. And when the diarchy came to an end and was replaced by a monarchy in 210 BC, Sparta itself didn't last much longer, and in 192 BC it was conquered and forever removed as an independent state. I hope you enjoyed this episode and thank you for watching, with thanks to my Patreon supporters whom you can see on screen now. And with an extra special thanks to James Bisonet, Ike, Danny Maloney, Colin Castleman, Marvin Cassow, Rob Waterhouse, Aaron the White, Jordan Longley, Chris Wicker, Gustav Swan, Gareth Turner, Marcus Arsner, Maggie Paxkowski, David Silverman, Spinning 3 Plates, Spencer Lightfoot, Lexi Schwinn, Winston Kaywood, Kelly Moneymaker, Anthony Beckett, The Original Cage, Robert Wetzel, Sky Chappelle, Parshu19 and Mo.